Mimighoul controls the field while Dogmatika strips the extra deck. Together they form an awesome team. But let's really put them to the test. We need challengers to push Mimighoul Dogmatika to its limit. And first up is Maliss. Alright, duel number 1 and we're going first. Awesome! We all win with a bunch of Mimighoul starters. Go, Mimighoul Maker! We'll choose Mimighoul Dragon and Archfiend since giving either one to our opponent will still let us combo. Since we already have Mimighoul Dungeon, we'll make sure to grab Mimighoul Room. Go, Mimighoul Master! Master helps us get Mimighoul Fairy for an extra body. And Mimighoul Dungeon helps us get Mimighoul Archfiend to give to our opponent. Because our opponent now controls a monster, we can use Triple Tactics Thrust to grab Nadir Servant to help us transition to Dogmatika. Go, Nadir Servant! Dogmatika Ecclesia helps us grab Dogmatika Matrix. And because our opponent controls a monster, Dogmatika Matrix grabs us 2 cards. Since we're going first, we're going to bring out White Relic and White Knight of Dogmatika, since that will let us rip out important cards from our opponent's extra deck even on their turn. What's awesome is that because we control both White Relic and White Knight, Dogmatika Macabre lets us rip out a card this turn, which will be Maliss White Binder. Because our opponent used an effect, White Knight lets us rip another card, which will now be Maliss Red Ransom. We have a solid board, plus we have ripped out 2 cards from our opponent's extra deck, but we're fighting Maliss, so we can't let our guard down. We definitely don't want Maliss White Rabbit to gain access to their traps, so we'll use Fleur-de-Lis to stop her. Go, Dogmatika Fleur-de-Lis! Although it might look good for us now, this is where things start to get rough. No, Little Knight! We really need to get rid of Maliss Dormouse, but our opponent wasn't gonna let that happen. Because our opponent activated an effect, White Knight lets us rip another card, which will now be Appaloosa. Now this isn't good. Dormouse's effect resolves, which is practically full combo for Maliss. At the very least, we ripped out both Maliss White Binder and Red Ransom last turn, so our opponent will need to play around that. Because our opponent summoned from the extra deck, White Relic lets us rip out another card, which will be Axis Code Talker. Darn, Maliss Heart Scriptor lets Maliss recur some of their cards back into the extra deck, which sucks since now they can bring out White Binder. Franklin lets us bring out Ecclesia, so we have next turn follow-up. Maliss is such a challenging deck to face against because the moment you give them any breathing room, they'll find some way to combo off of it. Alright, so we survived, but we really need to turn things around. So our opponent currently has Heart Scriptor and Cyberse the Savworm in the grave to interrupt us. We can disable the Savworm by destroying Firewall Dragon Dark Fluid, but I forgot that Elder Entity Entis is still negated under Call by the Grave. Whoops. Well, this sucks. Our White Knight got banished, our opponent recurred Red Ransom, and now our dungeon is also getting negated. Normally, this would be a great time to use White Relic to beat over high attack monsters, but since she's banished, we only have Albazoa. Because we now control a ritual monster, we can use Dogmatika Matrix to dump Golden Cloud Beast Malong to grave, which will at least let us bounce Heart Scripter. We might as well rip out our opponent's extra deck with Albazoa, but there's not much else we can do against Dark Fluid this turn. We only have Mimighoul Room as our main form of interruption, so things are really looking grim. Thankfully, it looks like our opponent couldn't bring out any Maliss monsters, but we are down to our last 100 life points, and are facing an 8000 attack Dark Fluid. At this point, the play is that we have to destroy Dark Fluid through card effects. We can do that through Mimighoul Dragon, but we'll need to put a dragon on our opponent's field to use Mimighoul Archfiend to flip Dragon. Nice, we got rid of Dark Fluid. Now we can go into Mimighoul Throne and bring back our Mimighoul Master. On a funny note, I almost attacked the face down Mimighoul Slime, which has 1900 defense. Good thing I double checked its stats. Things were looking better for us, but our opponent does this. Well, this sucks. We literally only have 100 life points left and all we have is a token. What's even worse now is that our own Mimighouls were going to make us lose the game. But there's still hope. Go, Mimighoul Room! Whew, that was close. But of course our opponent now has a Maliss starter. The next turn will definitely be our last, so here it goes. This was honestly some part of the cards moment because Forbidden Droplet is just what we needed. Go, Forbidden Droplet! Although Droplet can't stop Heart Scripter's banish effect, it will let us cripple her attack, as well as stop Little Knight. We really need to get rid of Heart Scripter and Nibiru this turn, especially since we only have 100 life points left. It's time to bring him back. Go, Mimighoul Master! We have no more Mimighouls left in our deck and our Dogmatika rituals are gone, so this is all we really have left. At this point, our opponent just needs to deal 100 life points to us to end the game. This is it. This is our last stand. Whew. But let's see what happens now when we go second. Alright, duel number 2 and our opponent's going first. Well, we opened with no hand traps, but at least we have Forbidden Droplet and Triple Tactics Thrust for our turn. Okay, so our opponent is playing Fiendsmith. I'm gonna fast forward a bit. We don't have a starter yet, but if we can draw one, we can save our Thrust for a board breaker. Awesome, Mimighoul Maker! Our opponent is definitely going to interrupt us when we use Maker, but good thing we can deal with it. Go, Forbidden Droplet! We might as well also negate Cashier Unicorn so our extra deck doesn't get ripped. Awesome! Maker gave our opponent Mimighoul Dragon. Now we just need to flip Dragon with Mimighoul Archfiend to wipe the field. I don't think so. Go, Mimighoul Room! Since our opponent's field is empty, we can use Thrust to grab another Mimighoul Room to interrupt them on their turn. Cashier Birth is going to be annoying the longer it is on the field, so it's time to bring out Giant Mimighoul. And every Mimighoul needs its dungeon. Dungeon helps us grab Mimighoul Archfiend to place on our opponent's field. Because our opponent controls a face-down monster, we can use Giant Mimighoul to get rid of Cashier Birth. we have Mimighoul Room to interrupt our opponent, and if they decide to special summon first, we can use Room to lock down their normal summons. We just have to hope that they don't draw Ash Blossom. Because our opponent special summoned, we can use Mimighoul Maker to flip Archfiend, and we definitely want to stop our opponent from Fiendsmith comboing again. Go, Mimighoul Room! Archfiend's effect here is really good because our opponent only has 2 cards in their hand, and making them discard one will leave them with just 1. At this point, we have no more interruptions, but our opponent is also locked out of normal summoning. Nice! Mimighoul really shined this game, but let's see some more Dogmatika action next game. Alrighty, duel number 3 and we're going first. We got multiple Mimighoul openers and also Nadir Servant to transition into Dogmatika. We'll start with Mimighoul Dungeon to bait out any Ash Blossoms. Darn, Droll and Lockbird hits us pretty hard. We can't use Mimighoul Maker and Nadir Servant now. But at least we can still go into Mimighoul Throne and Master for interruption. Okay, so our opponent is playing Spright. Since Sprites tend to always get 2 bodies on the field, we'll use Throne to hit Gigantic Spright before it can use its Ignition effect. Go, Mimighoul Throne! Cool, that was enough to stop them. Good thing for us, we have all our best starters. Go, Mimighoul Maker! Darn, now we're under max C. We already have a 4000 attack Mimighoul Master on the field, so we aren't too far off from OTKing our opponent. We just want to be mindful of our opponent possibly having Nibiru. Our most direct way of winning would be through just summoning White Knight of Dogmatika for her attack boost. Go, White Knight of Dogmatika! Nice, let's talk about how the deck held up. That was pretty tough. I've been pushing Mimighoul Dogmatika for a few weeks now, and the amount of Maliss I've been facing just keeps getting higher and higher. A good number of duels really just feel like a coin flip. If they go first and I don't open Max C, Fulos, or Lancia, it's pretty much a loss. And even when I go first, it can still be a challenge. But I guess that's what makes Maliss meta. Overall, it's been super fun playing Mimighoul Dogmatika. They work so well together. It's really satisfying to fight stronger decks through resource stripping and field control. Right now I'm still running a 60 card build, and it's been holding up in Diamond 4. That said, I'm definitely planning to adjust the deck so that it runs on a lower deck size, since I would like to have more consistency in my openers. I'll make sure to show you in the next video. Maybe you might want to give Mimighoul Dogmatika a try. Anyways, bye bye!